Welcome to Everyday Economics, a podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. To support podcasts such as this one, make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We're recording this episode on Tuesday, November 29th, and joining me, as always, is my dear friend, Dr. Orphe Divounguy. He's a PhD economist. Dr. O, hello, sir.
Good morning, Chris. How you doing?
Fantastic. Hey, I want to talk to you about Case-Shiller Index. So the numbers came out just today. This is fresh data. Not great. The price index fell 1.2% in September. That's the third month in a row. Now, we did see some absolutely off the chart scaling, over the past really 18 to 24 months. Are we coming down? And how low can we go?
Yes, we are coming down. And that's actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like, as contrary to what most people are saying, people who love to sell headlines of panic, it's a good thing. With mortgage rates going up so much, house prices coming down will allow the market to churn. We have affordability is the biggest problem in the housing market today across the country, but mostly in those Western and Southwest markets that saw the largest increases in house prices during the pandemic, places that have become really, really expensive. You need a downward price adjustment in order to get buyers to be able to come back in and keep this market humming. So this is important. And so it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. For sellers, look, some of these sellers saw 40, 60, 70% price appreciation over the pandemic. And so they're in a good position. They're in a great position. They can afford the price cuts. And in fact, I would recommend most sellers go out and work with an agent so that they can, if they decide they want to sell their home, to work with an agent and price their house appropriately or correctly for the current market so that it can sell and not linger. And that's my advice to sellers. For buyers, it's really important to know what they can afford, right? Like with mortgage rates so high, you have in your local market, you have to know, what is it that I can afford?
So that the 52-week range on mortgage rates. I mean, as of the 23rd, so this is about a week old. We'll get new data tomorrow. Doesn't do us any good right now, but we'll get new data tomorrow. 30-year fixed rate mortgage, 6.58% according to Freddie Mac. The range on that, 3.05% to 7.08% in the last 52 weeks. So we kind of hit a downward curve on mortgage rates right around the beginning of November. And it started to come down. But for a lot of people, that's not down enough to make the house, as you were just saying, the house that they want match up with their financial reality.
Exactly.
And then heading into the sort of the next phase of this economy, you'd have to think that we're going to talk about consumer confidence in a second as a separate episode. But I'm imagining that there's still a little bit of concern, if not some underlying fear in the market.
I think people are worried that their home value might be declining. They're worried, investors might be worried that we're going to go into a crazy situation like the one that we saw before the global financial crisis. And just things are completely different. I cannot stress that enough. Things are completely different. In the current environment, high mortgage rates have resulted in sellers backing out as well. We see new listings falling year over year. Some crazy numbers, over 20% year over year in some markets. And so homeowners have these golden handcuffs, right? These low mortgage rates, they're going to stick to, because that means, their mortgage payments are really low. They're not going to give that up to sell their house and go buy a new house, picking up a what did you say? 6.8%, 6.6% mortgage?
Right now, it's about 6.6%. It's 6.58 as of the 23rd of November.
Exactly. Sellers are just not going to do that. And so what we're seeing is basically buyers are waiting it out. Potential sellers are waiting it out. And those who really have to sell right now need to realize, look, during the pandemic, I made quite a bit. I can actually drop the price a little bit, right? In order for, we know price cuts shorten the time it takes to sell a home. So if you really want to sell your house, you can just lower the price a little bit, make that downward price adjustment, work with an agent to figure out exactly what your house is worth, make that downward price adjustment. I think that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for, so that the market keep going. Otherwise, the market will continue to be frozen without that adjustment.
I think that's a tough call for the seller, right? They had these big numbers in front of them. They watched their neighbors sell out over the last X number of months at the top of the market, and now they're like, well, my neighbor got 500 for his house. I should be able to get 500 for my house. My house is the same house. And that's just not where it's at right now.
Look, Chris, do you remember the days where you were playing poker and you were up like a lot, and then you start losing a couple hands, right? And instead of walking away from the table with this big stack in front of you, you're like, well, you get too greedy. You want to start, getting the few hands you lost, you want to make the money back, and you want the stack to get even bigger, right? That's kind of human psychology. But I say, if you really have to sell your home in the current environment, well, price your home to match the market reality, which is home buyers, shoppers have pulled back because of the price, because of affordability concerns, right? Meet buyers where they're at, and you'll be able to sell your home no problem. Because let me tell you something, inventory remains much lower than it was before the pandemic, which of course is going to support prices, right? That's a good news for sellers. But at the same time, there are still a lot of buyers waiting. They're just waiting in the wings for that price adjustment. They're waiting in the wings. They're waiting for something to happen so they can go ahead and buy the home of their dreams.
When we talk about the things, like the Case-Shiller index, it's a 20-city index. Some cities are doing better than others. Miami, Tampa, and Charlotte, according to Market Watch, which just very quickly put out a story this morning, not a lot of detail, but just the data. Miami, Tampa, and Charlotte were doing well on sales. The West, not so much. So where is the suffering occurring? Are we talking about California, Washington?
Yes.
We're talking about Nevada?
We're talking about Phoenix. We're talking about San Francisco, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Austin. Talking about Boise, Idaho. We're talking about those markets that saw massive appreciation during the pandemic that are very expensive today, right? We're talking about those markets. We're also talking about markets that saw rapid buildup, construction, right? Those markets that saw a lot of construction are markets where inventory has grown a lot, right? And so, by the way, I want to put a plug here. The Case-Shiller Index looks at September. If you want more up-to-date stuff, you go to researchzillow.com. You're going to see more up-to-date stuff on the housing market. In October, right, we saw home values were basically flat, right? We had declines, month-over-month declines, and then in October, we saw they were flat. And part of the reason they were flat is because, one, you got buyers waiting in the wings for a small price adjustment. They jump in. We have new listings pulling back. We have potential home sellers saying, you know what, let me just sit out this market. And all that stuff puts upward pressure on prices, despite the massive decline in demand that we saw over the past year.
Appreciate the insights as always. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.